Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ali Aruda. Thank you so much for being here. And I just got in from a dog walk, and I was listening to an excellent episode of the Ed Mylett Show. And the reason I just felt so compelled to hop on the mic and share this with you guys and talk to you is that I just listened to this episode of his that was really raw and vulnerable. And it really struck a chord with me because at the time of recording this, I'm getting ready to step into tomorrow being the 2-year anniversary of the loss of my dad. And it still feels really fresh. And Ed shared a lot of really raw, vulnerable feelings on this episode that I just listened to. It was called The Raw Reality, Grieving the Loss of a Loved One. And it was dedicated to Jessie Lee Ward, who I've consumed a little bit online, but not too much. However, I do know that she was a total powerhouse and she had a lot of value to share with the world and her community. And sadly, the world lost her. And so he hopped on the mic and shared a lot of just really honest, raw, vulnerable feelings that I really commend. And maybe because I'm listening to it, just hours before a really impactful day of mine and from Matt and my mom and our family, that it resonated with me a little bit more. But I just also think it takes a lot of courage to share such honest, raw feelings when you're processing such a magnificent loss and hole in your heart. And I'll probably get to some episodes where I am a little bit more vulnerable with you guys and I can share a little bit about, I lost my brother 18 years ago. And I feel like that has been, there's been a lot more time there to heal that wound and learn from that experience. I am still trying to find the lessons from the loss of my dad. That was really unexpected and pretty emotionally catastrophic. We were really, really close. And it is a void that I feel regularly. And one lesson that I feel like maybe I've learned, and it was a lesson that came up as soon as I lost my brother from my life, was how fragile life is. And that's probably the biggest lesson that I would love to share with all of you that are listening. And this is a bit of an experiment to talk about this. I was like, I'm going to do this and it's going to go one of two ways. But we're all friends here. And I felt really warm. My heart felt warm listening to Ed Mylett, this crazy, successful entrepreneur and leader that is strong and powerful and has so much influence. I really loved listening to him just be so honest and vulnerable. I thought I have a lot of respect for that. So I'm going to channel that here with you guys and attempt to share a little bit of the same things going into a bit of a more emotionally challenging day. I mean, hey, you go through loss like losing a loved one, especially when you're not expecting it. Those days they're often, and they sometimes aren't pretty. Sometimes they are, multiple hours in a day. Sometimes they're short bursts. Sometimes they're little moments. You never know when it could come and knock on your shoulder and let you know that, oh yeah, hey, it's just grief knocking here on the door. But grief comes in many different forms for everyone, and everyone's experience is different and everyone's process is different. But it can have lessons, and as I said, I'm still looking for them. I'm a spiritual person. I wouldn't classify myself as a super religious person, but I've definitely had some thoughts with the big guy upstairs where, I didn't really agree with this with this experience. And, I don't want to get into anything really deep in terms of religion. That is very, very dark waters of everyone feeling a certain way. But that's something that and I'm not afraid to say, because that's how I felt, that I just, my trust changed, and it might come back, but it was something that just tampered with, and having such a big loss. But I do feel that there can be beautiful lessons, and it might take a really long time to find those lessons. I will be the first to say that. But having a experience of great loss and trauma and grief can be a really big reminder that life is really short, and it really does matter how you spend your days. You want to make those days count. And I think I would classify myself for sure as a high performance individual. I don't really love using the term busy, but I do love doing a lot of things. I love to over deliver in everything that I do, in how I show up for my community, how I show up and run our gym, and my relationships. I mean, I'm also aware that there's always room for improvement. I think that's what is so fascinating about being a human, being an adult, especially if you're someone that is really passionate about personal development and how you can continue to raise the bar on who you are. There's always room for improvement. But there's just also this lesson of making it count, and who and where do you spend your time? Are you doing something, day to day from a job standpoint? Are you doing something that lights you up? Do you feel that you could be better? Do you feel that your heart's not in it anymore? Do you feel that you need to stretch yourself, add a new challenge? Do you need to take a course that will make you better at who you are and what you do and what product or service that you offer? But also being very gentle with yourself. And this was a lesson that I took from this episode that I just listened to with Ed Mylett. And I'm also in very recently, like we're talking a couple days here, that I'm really trying to practice this. Full transparency, not doing a great job at slowing down. But I've also said, even publicly here on my podcast, that I am open for counsel. I'm open for advice. How can I be better at slowing down, especially as a high frequency, quickly moving individual? And I think this was just kind of an aha moment listening to this message from Ed Mylett in my ears, that he's talking about grief. And, I tried practicing that when it happened 2 years ago when I lost my dad. And I was I don't even want to say pretty good, because I'm processing something that happened unexpectedly that felt like my heart was just ripped out of my chest. And so I was actually probably more numb or paralyzed with emotions. And I don't know about you, but that was the first time I experienced a broken heart. And that is no joke. And that could be from a, breakup with a loved one, or a lover, we can say, or it is the loss of somebody that you love and care for. Maybe it's even loss of a dream job. Who knows? But for me, that was the first time I experienced heartache. And that is a feeling. And I don't wish it upon anyone, but you are likely bound to have that in your life. And it was also my rock bottom. And eventually I kind of realized that the thing about rock bottom is that you can only go up. And I've used that analogy many times, or a handful of times, I should say, not many times. Thankfully, not too many times in my life since then. I'd like to think that, 2 years ago, rock bottom, I'd like to think you have a couple of years before you have to, go back to that. But I've shared that analogy or my own thoughts with friends or peers in our community that, yeah, life is not always pretty. Sometimes it's total garbage and it sucks. And you can be very aware of that it can suck. And if you do experience that rock bottom, you almost want to just honor it, recognize it. Yep, greetings, I'm here, I'm from rock bottom. But the good thing about rock bottom is that you can only go up from there. And it'll be a grind, it'll be a climb, but you can only go up. And that was very much where I was. And yet something has come over me in these 2 years, and I am still very much working through this loss and this grief journey. could probably do it a little bit better. And what I was going to say that where I'm looking for help and advice and support is to slow down. And I think when you lose someone or something, that is something that you might, do a good job at immediately, but it's something you want to give yourself grace for at other times. I was actually having a conversation with my mom about this today, and she just kind of is giving herself permission to really slow down and honor how she's feeling. And she's feeling sad. She's feeling sad and brokenhearted. And I've had small doses, but I've also been moving really quickly this month. I've had a lot happening, and I probably need to do a better job of slowing down and giving myself that space and that grace to be selfish. Earlier in the spring, I was working with a therapist and excited to get back into that routine. But oh my God, I remember the first time it was on Zoom, it was virtual. And the first time I showed up on Zoom, and she asked me a very simple question: where would you like to start today? And you guys, it was as if Niagara Falls just lost total control. Tears just poured out of my eyes for what felt like 20 minutes. And the hilarious part is that I showed up to this Zoom session with one lousy Kleenex. One. What did I think that was going to do? So anyways, we just sat and, I had a long, very in-depth cry. And a few calls later, the tears would come up often when I talk about my dad. And this is pretty difficult to talk about. As I said, I was giving myself a 50-50 shot to see how this would go. But she said to me that tears are love made visible. And that tears are a showcase or a reflection of, in this case, how much I loved my dad. And that's kind of a very special takeaway that I'd love for you guys to maybe write down on a Post-it, maybe write it in your notes on your phone if you're listening on your smartphone, or even share it with someone that you love and care about. Tears are love made visible. And it's a reflection of how much you love that person. And that tears are totally okay. They're so cleansing. They're so great. And what a release. So that would be my little takeaway, is allowing yourself to feel, give grace to yourself in hard times. And if you are finding yourself experiencing a lot of tears, just know that they're special and there's a significance of them. And that life is precious. To ensure that you are doing things that light you up, spending time with people that you really enjoy and you have fun with and you laugh with, maybe you cry with, and you have really good times with them. Put those people at the top of your list. Be in spaces that light you up and that you enjoy. Someone asks you for plans and it's not a full body yes. It's okay to say no. Or, thanks so much for including me. I can't at this time. That's a conversation for another time, but just really prioritizing things that make you feel amazing and so happy. And if you're not so happy and you're really sad, but who are those people that can pull you out of the trenches and they're there for you and they care for you and they love you? And that those people that you love and care about are so special. And we have a finite amount of time here, so make it count. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Mwah. Much love. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.